Welcome to the Film Review. Movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to mind. Each week, the husband and wife team take you on a discussion on culture in movies, music, politics, and society. Brought to you by LordlandFilms.com. So get ready for this week's The Film Review.
What's going on, people? What's going on, people? We have a great episode of the Film Review. Movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to mind. We are your hosts. I'm Crazy Dee
Tracey.
And we review movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to mind, and the culture in movies, music, politics, and society. Okay, do we have a great one for you today? And let's get some housekeeping out the way first. This is brought to you by the Black Ice Chronicles. That's the Black Ice Chronicles Back in Cleveland DVD, available on Lordland Films. That's available on Lordland Films. So definitely check that out right there. And also the Film Review t-shirts. We have on the gray with white letters. Yep. But we also have the black with white letters that is on lordlandfilms.com to order right now. So go ahead and order that. So do we have a show for you today?
Yes.
We have quite a few films that we've seen, and we have new music talk coming up for this time here. So let me just type this in real quick, and then we'll get started with what we got to do.
Well, the first movie we're going to be covering is a movie that I've been waiting to see for the last, 2 years?
Yeah, which is Glass. Yep, that's true. Absolutely. Let's see what else. Also, we're going to be reviewing
If Beal Street Could Talk.
If Beal Street Could Talk.
Replicas,
absolutely.
And Vice.
And we also have the new Don Cheadle joint that just premiered. Was going to premiere tonight.
Yeah.
But we saw it early, so you know what I'm saying.
Which is called Black Monday.
Let me get this. Excuse me for 1 second as I get this together.
We also saw Enlightened on HBO, starring Laura Dern.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna talk about that too also. So let's go here. All right, so now we're ready to start.
Yep.
We don't know what's going on with the Facebook feed. We're gonna find out what's going on with that in 1 second, because it did not kick off, and it was supposed to start at 4 and did not kick off. But we're gonna keep on going anyway. All right, so we're broadcasting and simulcasting on Blog Talk Radio and also Facebook Live. So we're reviewing again Glass, If Beal Street Could Talk, Replicas and Vice, and Don Cheadle's new joint called Black Monday.
Yeah.
And we're asking a question today. And the question is evil in the eyes of the beholder? Is evil in the eyes of the beholder? And the telephone number 213-943-3358. That's 213-943-3358. Is evil in the eyes of the beholder? And why we ask that question is we've watched these films, these last few films, and there is a common thread within the films. And it's really interesting about the common thread in the film. So let's get started and then we'll go into it. So the first film that we're going to review is Glass.
Yes.
It is a trilogy.
Yeah.
It's a trilogy film.
Yeah.
If you remember 19 years ago, a film came out by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes.
Entitled Unbreakable.
Right.
That's right. It was Unbreakable. Then a few years ago, Split came out.
Right.
And then after Split, now we have the third, which is Glass. So you're introduced to the first two characters in Unbreakable. Now, for those who don't remember Unbreakable, Mr. Glass, who is a person who since a youth, his bones are brittle and easily break. And so he was searching for the person who was his opposite, right? So he decided to start doing these disasters to try to find his opposite. And he found his opposite, and that's the story of Unbreakable.
Right.
Then, like I said a few years ago, Split came out.
Right.
Now, Split, you didn't know until the very end of the film how it connected, really.
Right.
But Split tells the story of a person who has multiple split personalities.
Yeah.
And one of his personalities is the leader of the board, as they said it, as they called it, and he is also the monstrous killer within the crew. And when you come to him, there is no reprieve. There is nothing unless he discovers something about you that's also something that's familiar to him, because it's about himself also. If he discovers that about you, then you'll be spared. And so at the end of the film, you see Unbreakable watching him on television. Now, at this point in the makeup of the Unbreakable character is he has become a vigilante. Yeah. And he goes after those who do ill in society. So as we're introduced in the trilogy, in this film called Glass, you're introduced again to split personality, and you're introduced to Unbreakable. Right? So Unbreakable is doing his vigilante thing, and he's gotten a pretty good system along with his son,
which is played by Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, that's the Unbreakable.
And then Sam Jackson is Mr. Glass. And
James McAvoy.
James McAvoy plays Kevin Wendell from Split.
Which he's Split.
Right.
So we'll keep it simplified for you, so we won't go into the character names. We're just going to say one is Unbreakable, one is Glass, and one is Split for the split personalities.
Right.
So then you're introduced again to Unbreakable, and you're introduced to Split.
Right.
The film opens up, and you already see the dire need. It's already in motion. What's happening with Split, and you've seen this on the trailer, so it's no spoiler. Right. What's happening with him and the cheerleaders open up the film. Yeah. Right? Right. And Unbreakable is out to try to find him. Right. Right? To try to prevent him, because as you find out in the film, there's been a few mutilations, we'll say. And that's what you find out in the film, that this has happened. So he's out to try to stop him. And in the midst of stopping him, you're introduced to a psychiatrist. Right. And her name, she's played by
Sarah Paulson.
Sarah Paulson plays her, and you're introduced to that, and that's really what happens. You've seen the previews where they seem to fall out a window, and that's really the initiating event, because you're introduced then to the psychiatrist, and then the film kicks off from there, people, and it goes there, and it becomes somewhat of a psychological thriller, because they're dealing with psychiatry, and her thing seems to be to tell them that they aren't who they think they are, right? Yeah. And so this is the whole thing. So they're going through a whole situation, but then you're introduced to Glass, because they take these two, they take Split and Unbreakable to the same facility that he was locked up in 19 years ago in Unbreakable after his heinous crime. We're not going to tell you what happened. You have to go back and watch these films. But so they're all there, and the Paulson character, she's trying to tell them that they are hallucinating about who they are. You've seen that in the trailer too, so that's no spoiler either. And they're trying to say that they are hallucinating, and you go through the whole film and you're trying to figure out why is she saying that, and why is M. Night Shyamalan bringing up the various tropes that make up hero films.
Right.
And it's the weirdest thing. You know, you're sitting there and you're watching it and you're like, why is he introducing these hero tropes? But he does, and you know, it's pretty successful as he goes along, you know. And so
it's really, really good. I mean, great acting, the backdrop, the city. He and like Shyamalan, of course, in all of his films, you know, he made an appearance in the film.
Of course, he made an appearance in the film, of course.
And it was just great, just action from beginning to end, the dialogue, just everything. You find yourself watching, like, just looking for different things. Even without dialogue, the camera movement like tells the story. It'll focus in on an object, and then you'll see that object tied into the storyline.
Yeah.
In the film.
It's great cinematography in the piece, absolutely, and you will find yourself gripped in the film.
Yeah, and we don't want to give anything away. There's a few twists and turns in the movie, which is good. It's always good to have a twist.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really, really good. And the cast was just excellent. Anya Taylor is also in the film, and you know her from Split. She was one of the girls that was kidnapped in Split, and she makes an appearance in this film. And then, of course, from Unbreakable, actor Spencer Treat Clark makes an appearance as Bruce Willis' son, Bruce Willis from Unbreakable. And so that was nice to see him as a child.
And then 19 years later,
as an
grown
adult.
Man.
So that was nice for them to bring him back, for them to bring the characters back. It was nice to see from Unbreakable, Mr. Glass's mother. She's also in the film.
She's in the film.
Yeah, so it's a really good film.
See, we're trying not to give away the film.
Yeah.
Because you have to go see this film, but it's part of a trilogy.
Yes.
And you find out that superheroes, because they are now designated as superheroes, and she's given the superheroes tropes. And you know, to us watching the film as the audience, they were just doing what they do.
Right.
You know, he was a vigilante.
Yeah.
He was a sadistic killer, and Glass was just a mastermind.
Right.
But to this particular woman who is a psychiatrist that you find out later belongs to an organization.
Right.
Superheroes, people who are superhuman, have something to worry about. You know what I'm saying? They really do have something to worry about out there in this world, because there are people who might not necessarily want them around. You've seen this trope played out.
Yeah, and all of them, Batman, Superman, and it's so frustrating.
And it's like Superman is saving people, but at the same time, you're watching Batman look up at him, and you see that Gotham is being basically destroyed because Superman is up there taking care of the bad guys, but he's smashing, and it's for some reason the vigilante in Batman looks at Superman as the problem, but he wouldn't have been able to stop the superhumans if they came. It would have took Superman to do it. So it's a real
just like in Spider-Man, he's saving everyone, and then they look at him, you know, as if he's the villain. You know, the police are chasing him down, and so it's just, you know, when you see these superhero films, it becomes a little frustrating. Just a little. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, so again, so that's the question of the night. Is evil in the eyes of the beholder? And this is why we say that for this first film. Here is in particular, here is Unbreakable. He is protecting people from criminal element,
right.
But there's another group of people who are looking at him as being evil.
Right.
Is evil in the eyes of the beholder, and in the aspect of it as the audience member looking at what this particular organization is doing to this particular person, you're saying, aren't they evil? So is evil in the eyes of the beholder? 213-943-3358.
If we had real life superheroes in real life, many people would still be alive today.
Or maybe there would be a group of people that were out there to hunt the superheroes.
Right.
Now, isn't that something? I mean, that is just ridiculous when you think about it. There will be someone out there to try to hunt down the superheroes, right? So we gave you the plot line on that, and I'm a little bit aggravated because my YouTube is not going, so that's why I'm a little bit hesitant about talking, because I'm trying to see what's going on. We have it going, but I can't find it, and it's pissing me off. But anyway, people.
So what would you rate the film?
Okay, as far as Glass is concerned, the psychological games that were being played between Samuel L. and the psychiatrist lady, I would have to give it a 10.
Yeah.
The fight sequences in it, 10.
Yeah.
How the story tracks and how you see everyone from the all the way from 19 years ago up to today and come up to today. Excellent. You will be entertained by all three films, but definitely by Glass.
Yeah.
So you have Unbreakable.
Yep.
You have Split.
Yep.
And you have Glass. And I would suggest watching the other two on a Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu or something like that before you go and see this film, because you will be entertained.
Yep.
And so watching this film, we were disturbed because at the end of the film something happens and you're like, what? And you have to ask the question, is evil in the eyes of the beholder? We want to hear from you. 213-943-3358. So what would you rate the film?
I would definitely give it a 10 for all the same reasons. I mean, I love the dialogue. I love the cinematography, the storyline. The acting was superb. It was really good. And I love it because I was, from beginning to end, I was engrossed. It seemed like the time went by so fast. I couldn't believe the movie was over as soon as it was. But I mean, it was a nice amount of time to film. But it's just that it was so good. And it kicked off, with introducing, well, go see the movie. But it kicks off with one of the main characters. And from there, you're taken for a ride.
Taken for a ride. So that is
oh, and another thing too.
Go ahead.
You find yourself being invested in the characters. Even the so-called villain. So it was weird. I mean, the writing was good. I mean, it's a good film when you're like, wait a minute, am I starting to feel concerned for the villain now? Am I starting to feel sorry for the villain right now?
The film says who is the villain and who is actually the villain and who is actually the good guy.
Right.
And that's the question.
Blurred line.
That's right. Is evil in the eyes of the beholder?
Right.
Then we switch base.
Yeah.
And we go to a movie that is complex in its cinematography, in its design, in the way that the director chose to tell the story.
Right.
We're talking about If Beal Street Could Talk.
Yeah.
That's right, Beal Street Could Talk. Let's go through the cast real quick of If Beal Street Could Talk. You already know there.
Excellent
Regina
cast. She won a Golden Globe.
She won the Golden Globe.
Yeah, for her character.
Best
supporting actress.
So let's go through the cast.
Also starring Stephen James, KiKi Layne.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Tyree Henry, we know him from Atlanta. Ed Skern, Dave Franco, Tian Paris, Pedro Pascal, Coleman Domingo, who played the father, he killed it as well. Diego Luna, Finn Wittrock, and Anjua Ellis. Great cast.
Okay, now who played the father again?
The father is Coleman Domingo.
Okay, right. Now, Coleman Domingo, we have to go side note before we get into the plot of the story. Where I first saw him, I'm sure he's been acting for a while because his chops were down by the time that I saw him. But I saw him on Spike Lee's Red Hook Summer.
Yeah.
If you have not seen Spike Lee's Red Hook Summer, you have to see that film. Of course, it's a Brooklyn-based film, and you're introduced to a pastor who seems down on his luck, and he's come back to pastor this church, which is down on parishioners. It's not making his quota, and it seems like it might have to move on and close its doors.
Right.
So he's brought in, people don't really necessarily know who he is or his background. Mm-hmm. But he's also taking care of his little grandson.
Right.
Right. He takes care of his grandson because he's coming into his own and he's becoming a little bit wayward. Hey, what's going on? Shouting out to the people. I can't read that name. It's too little.
Yeah, I believe. Let's see. Christianelle.
Christianelle. Yeah. Hey, what's going on, Christianelle? So he is brought in. He takes care of his grandson during the summer in Red Hook Summer. And you think that he's a regular guy, a regular minister, but then something happened, and that's where Domingo comes in, and the full twist on the film that you would not believe. And that's another example.
Yeah.
Is evil in the eyes of the beholder? That's what the question is.
Yeah, Red Hook Summer, you definitely have to see it if you haven't seen it.
If you haven't seen it. 213-943-3358. But he plays the father in If Beal Street Could Talk.
Right. Along with the other father, played by Michael Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've seen the trailer and you've seen like the family dynamic. There's two different families, but the way that they cut the trailer, they don't let you know who's who. So we can kind of straighten that out for you.
Right.
So as the story goes, there are two people,
right?
Two young adults, 19 and 21.
Right.
And they've known each other since they were way little children.
Right.
And they grew up together, and as they grew up together, as they get into their age of being young adults, a love movement between, I don't want to say romance because romance has to do with Rome. A love movement happens within their hearts towards each other.
Right.
And this is a story about this love story. That's what it is, and how love can maintain through the hardships and situations. That's what If Beal Street Could Talk is about. But it's also about the politics of being black in America.
Yeah.
It is definitely what it is. That's what James Baldwin was writing about in this piece. And he tells a story, and it's unflinching, and the dialogue is unflinching. The way that the director chose to bring it forth. And you know the director from Moonlight.
Right.
If people haven't seen Moonlight. And
Barry
McQueen,
Jenkins. Barry Jenkins is the director.
Barry Jenkins. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's right. Because Moonlight is Steve McQueen. And Steve McQueen has the.
Barry Jenkins also did Moonlight.
Oh, he did?
You're thinking about the 12 Years a Slave.
Okay, that's right. All right. That's right. Barry Jenkins. Okay.
Right.
So, I think that's why I have my wife here. She's the minister of information on this. Okay. So, you've seen Moonlight, and realize his shooting style. So the cinematography on this piece, beautiful. The way they tell the story. See, in filmmaking, like what I talk about when I talk about jumping the line. Matter of fact, that's up on Vimeo right now for filmmakers to go and we instruct you on how to jump the line correctly.
Guys from originally from Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, but now we're in Las Vegas. Okay, so look. So as you see, as they tell the story, they're telling the story, and you're sitting there. On the left side is the protagonist, and then on the right side is the on the right side is the protagonist. On the left side is the person that he's talking to. And as they change the line, it changes the reality of whose world you are in. So learning to jump the line correctly, we have that up on Vimeo on Lord Land Films how-to series. Definitely go there and learn that, because they did this so beautiful in If Beal Street.
They did, because before the dialogue started, like, what did I lean over and say? I said, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Look at that angle. Like, this is like before, like as soon as the film started and the credits were rolling. I mean, it's just a beautiful scene. So when you see the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. This is just like even before the dialogue started, this scene,
Right.
Nice.
They're very nice. Okay, so
Great cinematography.
great cinematography. Okay, so you're introduced to these two, and you see their development. So you're introduced to them in real time, but then they start giving you flashbacks in the film to show you their relationship, how their relationship has built over the years, where they come from. Right? And then it leads you through this story. It's not told in chronological order. So the next thing you know, he's in prison, right?
Right.
And that turns into the initiating event, which is their main purpose. Her dramatic need and the initiating event is to get him out. So the initiating event and the dramatic need is the same.
Yeah.
At the same time, to get him out. Now, there's a scene between the family.
Yeah.
Now you've seen the trailer, so this is not a spoiler.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes in the movie, and there are so many great scenes, like between the different actors, so many great, but I do love the scene with the family. The
love that you see first between the mother and father.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is something that, we experienced as children, having mother and father that did. You can see that love there.
Right.
So black love is put up on the screen.
Right.
Then you see
the love for the mother and her daughters, and then the love with the father and his daughters as well as his wife. Like, the family unit is tight.
That's right, the family unit.
Excellent, yeah.
And when the father is sitting there, he's perplexed for a second, but then he says, "You've always been a good girl. Come here." And so that's real nice. But then they decide to bring in the future in-laws, which is the side of the family that he belongs
Fonny's
to.
Side of the family.
Fonny's,
His
that's
family.
Right. His side of the family. They decide to bring them over, and the mother is what you would call a holy roller. And she's definitely into the Bible, and she is a Bible thumper. And so,
but because there are some Bible thumpers, and we've seen in many other films, who are kind and they have a good heart, and they're Bible thumpers. Now, this particular Bible thumper is not a nice person at all.
So you see that in the preview,
right?
When she says, "Who's gonna raise this baby?"
Yeah, you see this in the trailer.
You see it. So, but let's not sugarcoat this about saying some Bible thumpers. When you say the word Bible thumper, you're talking about people who want to take the book verbatim to go on ahead then to down others
Right.
who they perceive in their minds to not being able to do the right thing. So as the story plays out, something happens that you have to see the film, because this is old school here, people.
Oh, yeah.
This is old school, what happens.
Yeah, so
in
we're
the
not
film. So we're not going to give you away, but let me tell you something. The acting and the sequences and the love between the two main characters,
Right.
how they come together and how they become one,
Right.
beautifully shot,
Beautifully shot.
right?
Yeah.
And they show it to you a couple of different times in the film, because they show it from one person's point of view,
Right.
and then they show it to you from the other partner's point of view, and it's great. Now, what can we say about my man from Atlanta? He plays his part as the friend that he sees out on the street and brings home, and he tells this story, and the story about what prison life was like during that time for black men in particular is spell binding. It will keep you gripped, and the musical sound accompaniment with it, and the reaction of the female actor after he finishes telling the story gives you that full feeling that you felt when he was telling the story.
Yeah.
So
you felt his pain. Definitely.
You felt the pain. You felt the pain of generations, though, not just his pain, but you felt the pain of generations.
Right.
And I have to say,
as well as today, you know, I told you that in the theater. Like, even though this this is from James Baldwin's book, in which he wrote years ago, we still see that this is going on today.
That's right. So you see generations.
Right.
So it is definitely a situation. Then you find that there is. Then they unpack how he wound up in jail. Actually, he's in jail before he goes to prison. He's in jail awaiting trial, but the trial keeps getting pushed back because there's an allegation of something that happens. Right. And you see the police officer who said that he supposedly saw him running or something. And so we won't tell you that, but you have to go see it. But
what I do want to say is the relationship between both of the fathers. That was
very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Yeah.
They definitely looked forward to the grandbaby coming into the world.
And they captured the scene great. The family scene, because then it make you think about relatives growing up when families would get together Friday or Saturday, music playing. I mean, Barry Jenkins did an excellent job with the mood of the film.
The mood, yeah.
Because you could relate, to the family members and family, there's just relatives and just the good times and hearing the music in the background of the soulful music playing, and it was great.
So we have to say, and what happens at the end of the film, you have to ask, is evil in the eyes of the beholder? Because within these first three films, these first two films, and we're getting ready to get to the next film.
The first film, as far as the evil in the eyes of the beholder, it could go. But this second film, definitely, evil is clearly presented.
What I'm saying is, evil is a theme in these films that evil seems to win out, right? So what would you rate? What would you rate the film?
I would give it a 10 because of the acting. I mean, come on, it's James Baldwin. The writing, the script was just superb. Even the people in the theater, like just certain lines, they were like, just like powerful writing. The acting, superb. He selected great actors because you can like feel them, and then just the love that Regina King and her husband had for not only their daughter, but for Fonnie as well, the daughter's boyfriend, you know, and Fonnie's father, you know, the love he had for his son. So and Tish, you know, her sister. I mean, it was just like the writing was great, the acting was superb. Of course, the cinematography, the scenes were just beautiful. It was, to me, it's just like, even though, you know, some people, James Baldwin wrote it like it was a period piece, but fine. I mean, because this stuff is still happening. It's happening today, like right now. You know, innocent people being accused of crimes they didn't commit, and people who clearly, because it's on videotape, that we all can see, who have clearly committed crimes, are able to get off scot-free. So, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, it's just horrible, and it's just full of bullshit. And so what is the saying? What's the saying? They say, don't believe your lying eyes.
Right.
You know, so the crime is clearly committed on video. You've seen this child murdered, an innocent man murdered, sitting in the car, not doing anything, just shot. You know, and the person that commits these murders, you know, are able to just get away with it, and it's on video. And then it's just set, like in the film, you just see like the unfairness.
Yeah, unfairness.
And in the midst of all of the bullshit, just like in life, in the midst of bull crap, you have your, you know, loved ones there to support you and to be there for you, whether it's family members, whether it's close friends. I don't know. That was the light in the movie. The light of the movie was the love of this community, and like in the introduction of the movie, you know, which was taken from the book. You know, they said this is called Beal Street, but Beal Street happens everywhere, you know, in the black community, everywhere.
Right.
So, you know,
and maybe that's why, because there is because this is supposed to happen on Beal Street, right?
Right.
That's supposed to be New Orleans, right?
Yes.
It's supposed to be in New Orleans. So that's one of the, if there could be any drawback to the film, there were no accents thrown into the film. So the accents in the film were null and void. It was just regular black speech, you know, like, you know.
It could be anywhere.
It could be anywhere, right. But I guess they solved that problem by telling you that it was that it could be in any neighborhood, any large dense population. Because when we were looking at it, I was like, this looks kind of like they're showing us New York City, you know, just a little.
You're so engrossed in like the dialogue and the great acting that you.
It feels as if you're, you know, you're just taken aback by the storyline.
Right.
But they do show you one thing that is very interesting that we cannot overlook is immigrants coming to this country. If they come from such a place like what they show where the woman comes from, there's a Puerto Rican woman that's in the story, and you see where she comes from, and her living condition is one of utter, I'm talking about, you know, poverty in the United States, but then there's poverty around the world where the people that run those areas really, in my opinion, don't care about their people. And so they will have them in some of the worst conditions possible. So when immigrants come here and they see what the Black American fights against and looking for better living conditions, they say, in our living conditions, we live in places that are basically shacks and shanty towns, and coming here to the United States and you live in places that are subsidized by the United States government that has 4 walls and nothing necessarily, not unnecessarily falling apart on it. Yeah, you're gonna complain. So their struggle, once they come here, their struggle is not the same as ours, and this is what the film captures within the politic of the film. This is what it captures, and it's very interesting. You know, just the politic of the film. Yeah. You know, it's unbelievable what they're able to capture and show you without without beating you over the head with it. But it's there. It's plain and simple that there's a problem, Houston, and there's a problem with the disconnect of people not realizing that there was a group of people who made it possible for people to be able to come to this country. That's right. And so that shows you. So within this story, this is what James Baldwin is showing you. Right. I mean, it's amazing. Well, you know, Barry takes the script and he, you know, takes it and well, not necessarily creative license, but he takes it and he adapts it to the screen to give the points that he wants the audience to get on the screen. So, you know, that's very important because, you know, novels are 300 some pages sometimes, and so you have to take the meat of the story and arrange it into something that's pretty close to the book. So he did a great job, and where he did use his creative license, it's perfect, and it helps the story move along. Okay, listen, people. We are now on YouTube. Now I can feel better, and we can get loose in here because we were going through this, and we want to welcome in the people who are watching us on YouTube. And the question for tonight is evil in the eyes of the beholder? Now, for those who didn't get a chance to hear us talk about first Glass, and then If Beal Street Could Talk. You have to go back and watch that. But within these two films so far, what we've already told you is that from the beginning, you see that evil seems to win out. And this is something that they're putting across in these films. There's messages in films, and in these films that we watched, evil seems to win out. And before we go any further, for those just tuning in, this is brought to you by the Black Ice Chronicles back in Cleveland film, streaming on lordlandfilms.com. Also, you can get the hard copies on lordlandfilms.com. We'll get it right out to you, you know what I mean? And also, we have the black and white letter, the film review t-shirts. Make sure you help us support us. Go ahead and get that, you know what I mean? Because we're bringing content, commentary, and everything to the masses, you know what I'm saying? So we are simulcasting officially now on Blog Talk Radio. You can watch us, listen to us there on Blog Talk Radio, on Crazy D Radio on Blog Talk Radio. Also, we are on Facebook Live, and we are also on YouTube Live, broadcasting lively. Okay, so now, so what would you rate the film? You said you gave it a 10. It's excellent. Let me give my rating of the film. Okay. What is being talked about in the film as far as the injustice done to black bodies, it can be a very depressing thing because you see this. You see, there's on the next Crazy Talk, Crazy Topics show, which is coming on next Thursday at 11 a.m. The next subject is, did the civil rights generation hold on too long and not pass the reins over to Generation X? That's the question for next Thursday. And what you see is they used the videotape in the 60s in the late 50s, early 60s to show you the water hosing, the beating by cops, all that to show the evil in what was being done to black people who just wanted to shop where wanted to shop without having to go through the back door, being able to drink from out of a water fountain without needing to go to the black only or go to the restroom. Sometimes the restrooms are out of order because they didn't keep them up. So it's all a lot of detail. Or just going to the schools where they could get the best of books because it was not separate, but it was not, it was anything but separate and equal.
It was quite wicked.
Right, it was wicked. So when you see the beatings that happened in the 60s and then the civil rights generation held on, and they keep on telling you that if they see it on a videotape or they see it, and now it's cell phones, they see it, then we're going to be able to make changes. However, the consciousness of a lot of Caucasian Americans have changed and they don't care. And so that's why we're talking next Thursday about did the civil rights generation hold on too long and not pass the reins over to Generation X that would have took it in a different direction. So that's next Thursday.
Right.
But watching the film and seeing the injustice that was put on the screen, I don't know if the larger audience is still the majority in this country will get the message that's trying to be put across there. I really doubt it. I don't have any faith in it. We as a people who know what's going on, who may fight and be in the conscious or unconscious struggle, as they say, we can go watch the movie and say, yeah, that's true, and that's still true today. And then others will say no, because they might want to be willfully ignorant, which gets us to Vice. But Vice comes after Replicas, and so we're going to get to talking about Vice. But they may be willfully ignorant on it purposefully. So I don't think that the messaging that's coming through will get through, because this is a battle for now genetic survival, which we'll get on that another time. But other than that, the film, the cinematography, the storytelling, the camera angles, the camera movement, the acting, amazing. The two protagonists in the film, the two main characters, they need to see something. The script needs to see some awards during the award season. The clothing design needs to see something. The way that they were able to shoot where they were, even though there were modern cars going by, they were able to still have cars go by, but you didn't know exactly what type of cars they were. The cinematography, the depth of field, just needs awards given out to them. So I will say, I will give the film a 10. The way the film ends, you just have to see the way the film ends. And I want to say, just like Moonlight, I'm going to have to give it an 8. The way it ended, because it's
because it's good, but you want more.
Yeah, you want more, but you feel unfulfilled. Okay, I'll say that. And then once you see the film, you'll understand where I'm coming from and what I'm saying with that. Okay, so now let's go on to the next film. So we get at a 10. So far we've given glass of 10. You have to go see the trilogy, because there's a trilogy of what's the two? Unbreakable and Split, to be able to understand totally Glass. But you can see the film and get and grasp, because it's a standalone story. But it would be good if you have the backstories, which are now part of the trilogy. And then
we gave it Beal Street Could Talk.
We gave it a 10. It's a good, beautiful love story. You see black love on the screen, unconditional black love, and you see some conditionals with Bible. But anyway, that's another story. Okay, so let's move on. So now the next film that we went to go see was a real stinker. And I'm going to tell you, it was a real stinker. Our opinion, it was a stinker. And we were shocked to see who was involved in promoting and marketing the film. It was just not good. The storyline did not lay out, but we're going to lay it out to you. It is Replicas starring, who's in song? Keanu Reeves. Now, usually Keanu Reeves, keep going.
Hey, Pamela.
Hey, keep going through the names real quick.
Starring Keanu Reeves, Alice Eve, Emily, Aline Lynn, Thomas Middleditch, John Ortiz.
Okay, so now, listen. Now, John Ortiz plays the villain's villain in this piece. And this right here really gets us to asking the question, is evil in the eyes of the beholder? And we're asking you tonight, call up 213-943-3358 to give us your perspective on, is evil in the eyes of the beholder? Now, let's lay out the story, because this right here really encapsulates what's going on. So,
and also, Naish Hatendi was also in the film. Do you remember this one?
You know, I think he was just an extra.
Okay, because
I think he was in the back, like on the computer.
Right.
But I'm glad that he got some. What's the name? Because I don't remember seeing him. But anyway, so listen. You open up. It's a man. He's trying to transfer human thought into an android. That's the best way to describe it. So you open up the film and you see this, and you see that this process has failed miserably, and as you hear in the backstory that they've done it before and the same things happen. The person or the human thought gets into this android situation, looks at it, who am I, what is this, and they start ripping themselves apart. So let me say first, there are some redeeming qualities to the film. The CGI work is good. And that's about it. And so
Keanu Reeves acting.
We're gonna get to that in a minute. Okay, so look. So then you go and see his family life. So they set up the setup in the film is not your traditional setup. There is no real initiating event. There is no you see his dramatic need, but there is no necessarily initiating event in the film. You're just going through. It's like it's going through aimlessly, and it's showing you just shots and dialogue and shots of different things of conversations, but it's really not gelling to the point that it will keep your interest. It might even cause you to maybe doze, you know, maybe a couple of times, you know what I mean, out of the thing. Okay, so look. He has a conversation with his wife, which really is the main conversation of the film, which talks about ethics and morals, and not necessarily doing it because she asked the question, if something happened to me, would you try to do that to me? So for some reason they're on going on a vacation in the middle of him getting ready to trying to get this process, because they said that if the process isn't fixed, they're going to shut the whole process down. Everybody's going to lose their job. Somewhere he's going on a weekend vacation, which I don't know how that's happening, but it's storming, it's raining, they miss something almost hitting them. The next thing you know, something else happens and they wind up. It takes off from there. And that's I guess that would be the initiating event, which leads to his dramatic need. So there was an initiating event, but it took so long to get there. It was about maybe 20 minutes into the film. It's usually 10, and so it was not that great. Now, you're just sitting there and you're waiting for things to happen. So then next thing you know, there's a replicas made of his. So I'm gonna have to give a spoiler on this, because I doubt if people see it, but there are replicas made of his whole entire family.
Well, you see that in the trailer.
And
you see that in the trailer.
And then he discovers why the experiments don't take in the experiment. So they're not actually bringing about putting them inside of androids. They actually recreate them in incubation cylinders, and they bring them back totally back full grown to the age that they were, and then they put the brain back in, and then they start to discover that things aren't necessarily right, and then you find out that the guy who is the criminal's criminal is actually an experiment for something else. But the main point I want to jump, because you may want to see this film, I want to jump to the end, and of course, you know, good seems to prevail, right? But he comes back and he tells the guy who is the villain's villain, who something is happening to him. He says that you can make a lot of money, and the next thing you know, you see them making a lot of money in like maybe 6, 7, maybe a year later. You see them making a lot of money, and so villainy wins in this film. Though he gets away with his family, villainy still wins. So is evil in the eyes of the beholder, because the villain wins, and though his main focus of why he was doing it in the beginning shifts over, he's making lots of money, still doing the same thing that the guy discovered. He discovered the process that will work to be able to bring people back, and now they're helping old fogies who have to be a white supremacist, give a lot of money, and then they're able to be young again with the brain capacity, right? It's kind of like, what was that movie? It's the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then the guy who's the villain.
Is it Total Recall or no?
Was it Total Recall, where they pumped the guy, he had his brain information pumped into the other guy because he's dying, and he tells the clone to go get him, but it's only one thing: the clone wasn't fully developed, and he didn't talk anymore. But when he died, his soul died, and though the clone had his information, he was a totally different being with just his information. It wasn't his soul.
Right.
So that's what they don't explain to you, how these people could be still be there, and but it's a totally different soul. It just has your information.
Right.
So, Replica, out of all of the films that he has done, and I mean Constantine, it's not Constantine, people. It's just not.
Or it's not John Wick.
Definitely not John Wick, people. And it's definitely not The Matrix 1, 2, 3, right? It's not, none of that. His acting, I give his wife credit, because she acted one way, but then once she became the clone, then she kind of changed, and even at the end, she was more kind of stiff, but she loved him, but she was kind of stiff. So
Alice Eve did it.
That's right. She did a great job acting. A lot of action movement in it. I have to give Keanureeves, in his age, being able to do what he does still, give him a 10 in that. The story, though, and the way it flowed, and how they could have switched some things around and made it was very non-cerebral. So that meant that everything seemed to be on the nose. I'm gonna have to give it a 5. I'm gonna give it a 5. It was it could have been a snooze fest, and that's why they weren't promoting it. I thought the way a Keanureeves film should be promoted, because it's Keanureeves, but he executive produced it. And we saw another name, which we're going to leave that name out right now, but he executive produced it, and maybe next time coming around, it'll be a better, because people are getting into doing their own film. So I have to give it a 5. What would you rate it?
Well, I enjoy sci-fi films.
But
this one, I didn't like it, and I just assume, Keanureeves is gonna be in it. He's in really good films. Check it out. but it just didn't do it. So I mean, I would give it a 3.
Did you hear that, people? A 3. And then at the top, at the end, villainy wins out. Is evil in the eyes of the beholder. Okay. So the next film that we reviewed is Vice.
Yes.
Now they've been advertising it. I don't know if they got the people to come to the box office to necessarily see it. Right?
They winning with Golden Globe
They've
Awards.
been winning Golden Globe Awards, but they have now put it under comedy. Vice.
I can see that.
No. There are funny parts in the film,
Right.
but this, people, is by no means a comedy.
It's frightening. It's true.
I mean,
Frightening.
when you see, and that's why we have to ask, is evil in the eyes of the beholder? Because here is, the story is about Dick Cheney, the vice president for the 44th president of the United States, right? Because Clinton is 45 and 43rd.
Yeah,
43rd president, because he was 44 and now we have 45. So for the 43rd president, which is George W. Bush.
Whose
right?
character was quite entertaining in the film.
It was quite entertaining. Let's go through the cast real quick.
Excellent cast. I mean, Kristen Bell, who plays Dick Cheney, he's won multiple awards so far, and I can see why, because he really no bodysuit there. He gained the weight for the part, and he acted his butt off. Also starring Sam Rockwell, who played George W. Bush, who did an excellent job. He embodied him.
He did. He really did.
He did an excellent job. Amy Adams, who plays Lynn Cheney, Vice President Cheney's wife. Amy Adams did an excellent job. Steve Carell, Jess Plemons, Allison Peel, Kaylee Spaney, Tyler Perry is in it. He plays Colin Powell. Excellent cast. Eddie Marson, we know him from on Showtime. Ray Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
He plays Ray Donovan's brother on the show. He did an excellent job. Naomi Watts, Justin Kirk, excellent cast. It was better than I thought it would be. It was quite entertaining. Lisa Gay Hamilton played Condoleezza Rice. Alfred Molina. It was a great cast. Huge cast. They did a great job.
Okay, so this and Glass, to me, were two of the most entertaining films that we saw over this weekend, over this week that just passed, and over the weekend. These are two of the most entertaining films that we've seen.
Oh, and executive producer for Vice, Brad Pitt, which was also done by his film company Plan B. But
we've seen quite a few Plan B films lately.
Yeah,
he's moved into more of the production and executive producer role.
Yeah, and Will Ferrell is also an executive producer for Vice. But I was sitting there thinking, because Plan B also did Beal Street Could Talk. So, and then the 12 Years a Slave and a bunch of films before. The film that won the Oscar last year, I can't think of it, with the billboards.
Right. 3 billboards and
but even
something like that.
Yeah, when Brad Pitt did The Button, what was it?
Benjamin Button.
He deserved an Oscar then, but they didn't give it to him. But although the Oscars, they suck, because Will Smith should have gotten an Oscar a long time ago, especially for the movie 7 Pounds.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, you have to go see it, because Will Smith acts his butt off, and you're crying watching the film. Powerful. But just like the Oscars have not given Will Smith an Oscar yet, they have not given Brad Pitt an Oscar yet for Best Actor. But you know what? A lot of his films have won Oscars, so he's getting his Oscars one way or another.
Yeah, one way or the other.
Right.
Okay, so setup of the film. You open up, you see a young Dick Cheney. He's basically a college student, alcoholic, drinking, partying, flunks out of school, gets an ultimatum from his future wife. Says, "You're gonna do or not gonna do." He says, I'm never gonna make you disappoint me again." He goes to Washington D.C. as an intern and gets going, and from there, that's how Dick Cheney kicks off. Then next thing you know, he's around, and next thing you know, he gets and he clerks for, not clerks, but he is the I forget what they call them.
Are they aides?
Aides, that's it. He's the
For
aides for
Rumsfeld?
Rumsfeld.
Hello, Quentin.
And this is where it kicks off there, and his dramatic need is to not to always make his wife proud. That is the dramatic need, and the initiating event of it all is when he's stopped by the police in a drunken stupor. Again, this is another film where it's not in chronological order, where you see a lot of flashback sequences to tell you the story that's happening in real time. So as Dick Cheney goes up the ladder, he is a person who is behind the scenes and never quite gets to have the powerful be the number one in the chair, but he finds a way to have power.
It's like the puppet master.
That's right. And so anyone who has seen and knows the story of the Iraq War, he's all up in it. They show you on the screen what people have seen and know to be true. But you have to prove it. And that's what they say at the beginning of the film. They say Dick Cheney is one of the most secretive people we know. So we did the effing best that we could.
Yeah. And they did a really good job, because you do kind of learn more about him, and then you learn more about his wife as well, Layne Cheney. And she's just as powerful as him.
And it becomes a family business. The two daughters go into politics also, and then, besides, let's just say that it's a family business. Politics is a family business with the Cheneys, and to see what the wife ran, it wouldn't be, because during that time, all the dollars were being stripped away. So how could you be actually running something that was for the good of people, and the dollars are being wiped away? So you see this, he goes through, you see the whole build of him, and we don't want to give the story away, because you should see this film. It is very educational as well as being very entertaining, and you will laugh at points, but this is not a comedy. Now they may put it in the category of comedy, because you even have some Shakespeare in it, but it is not a comedy. This is real serious business. And there's one scene in the film where they talk about bombs dropping, and they show you the before. And if it does not startle you, if it does not shake you and wake you up on what's actually happening, and just see the film. But listen,
you learn a lot seeing the film. Everyone
knows that Donald Rumsfeld had to resign, right? So there's a scene in there. I'm going to tell this. This is a spoiler, but it's not intricate to the story. It's not bringing up the story, the plot of the story. But Donald Rumsfeld resigns, and he's on the phone with Cheney before he does it. And Cheney says that the president wants you to resign. He says, how did you get so cold? He said, I'm sorry, some things can't be helped. That's what he said. And Donald Rumsfeld says, do you think that they're going to prosecutors, and he said, and then I think he says it is what it is or whatever, and then so they get off the phone with each other. So Donald Rumsfeld, they don't show you him resigning, but you know this, anyone who lived through it, and it's a good history lesson for kids who didn't live through it to know. It's just a great piece to know how government works and how through decades of working together, these people come back in. First, he was the aide for Donald Rumsfeld. Then Donald Rumsfeld becomes the youngest Secretary of Defense,
right.
And then because of Dick Cheney, he becomes the oldest Secretary of Defense,
right.
Who oversaw the Iraq War and the Halliburton, which was Cheney's company, right? And so they made lots of money, and in between time, people were abused.
And then Cheney became the youngest chief of staff.
Yeah, he did. And then he became the vice president with the most power.
Right.
Almost, he was, what they show you in the film is the decisions that were being made when Bush was up in the air flying around in Air Force One at the behest of Cheney, that he was making all the decisions on the ground. That's what it tells you. So I forgot that, because they come all the way through to the inauguration of Barack Obama, 44.
Right.
And I forgot, and they didn't show this in the film, but I remember when the debate was going around and they were saying, was President Obama going to push for Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, and everyone else that was involved to be prosecuted for war crimes? And if I remember this correctly, President Obama declined to prosecute, which, you know, hey, I don't know why he did it. Maybe he
knew they would get off.
No.
Look at what's happening today.
But everything is put in chain. Maybe because he realized being the first. But it's a couple of things that I surmise. Maybe him realizing that he's the first black president, that he's going to have to do some things that looks war crimey.
Right.
And, you know, he's going to have to drop bombs on people, you know, ordered by him to do it with drones and things. And he wouldn't want the same people who he prosecuted then come back later after he gives out his presidency and prosecute him. So that was probably a courtesy. That's one. Two, he would go upstairs every day at 8 p.m. and be in the White House and see his young daughters and say, maybe I don't want to do that because, you know, I am the first black president, and, you know, things happen to black people, you know, as he soon started to discover. So maybe it was those two things, but they could have righted that wrong had he prosecuted them. Yeah. So that's what they show you in the story, and then they show you Colin Powell. They show you Condoleezza Rice, and they make Condoleezza Rice look like she really wasn't doing it.
She's just sitting there, just sitting.
You know
what did they say during the Hurricane Katrina? She was in New York. They said she was shopping, and after that she went to see a play. So her character in the film was useless, kind of like, I guess maybe we can't be sure, but you know, that's my opinion.
So Vice,
right? You
have to see that film,
right?
It is a historical piece,
right?
It is it's a government lesson. It's a civics lesson.
Life lessons.
You know, it also tells a story of a period in time that leads to where we are now.
Right.
The same things that they talk, and that's one thing that I just need to address real quick in about 1 minute. We have to stop thinking that what we see on the news isn't something that we saw way back. Since there's been a news, they've been covering the same things. It's been race, war, economics, oil.
Right.
Race, war,
Right.
economics, oil. Race, war, economics, oil.
Right.
It's always been the same thing.
Immigration, you forget that. It's always
race. That's
immigration.
race. I just throw that all in race. I'm not doing that because
they throw it all.
because the whole thing, why it's race, and why I say it's race and the immigration, all that goes in, is because it is a battle between. It's an economic battle and a sociological battle between black people and European Americans.
Right.
And so why I say it's race and all the other three categories is that the immigration is just, the immigrants are brought to make sure that black people can't take their rightful place for working for free for 257 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what this is about. Right. So when I say that, I don't even add immigration and all that in. It's just race, war, economics, and oil. Yeah. And that's what it is.
You see it in the film, and they show you scenes from the news during that time period, and you compare it to today. It's like you said, it's
and
the same thing.
And we came home, and the very thing that they were talking about, what Trump was talking
on
about
television
today, about doing something with oil. It was in the movie
that we just saw.
It was just in the movie, so it's just a repeat, and they keep on keeping you on
same
this
playbook.
Hamster wheel, and really you just need to jump off the hamster wheel.
Right.
Okay. So see this film, Vice.
But definitely, you know what? We're going to talk about this one scene. In the film when they mention the main players in the White House.
Okay.
When George Bush first became president, and then Cheney, they're sitting in the office, and then they give you a visual. Instead of chess pieces, is like little pieces of the actual players, right?
Okay.
And they even was Colin Powell. Did they mention him?
They mentioned him over because he was over.
Okay, so they mentioned him.
But they said
Condoleezza Rice, they brushed over her, like, period, in the film. Like, we're not even like being funny.
She just was sitting there in 1 minute.
Right, in the film, they let you know that they thought of her, and I was gonna say in our opinion, but according to what we saw in the film as well, she was not like relevant at all. At all.
Because she did study the Cold War in Russia.
Yeah, that's what we hear. We hear that's what she studied. And she just sat there, and while everything was going on, she's just sitting there looking, just sitting there.
So you had to see the film, and then Colin Powell, well, anyway, anyone who knows that, so this isn't spoiling anything because this is history. They made him sit there and say something at the United Nations that was not factual. And even he has come out and said that. But they basically muddy, because what did he want? He wanted to do something with education and make education equal.
He did.
Right? Before they tapped him. And for some reason, they gave him an offer that he couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
And he, went on and did it. And they just muddied his name.
That's what they did.
And then after that,
but then he became a supporter of President Obama.
Yeah. But then that's muddy, and then we see how President Obama was in the end, and you see what his ineffectiveness brings us to 45 today, I believe. Okay, so what would you rate the film?
I would give it a 10. It was a good film because you learn a lot. I mean, you kind of know how things are. If you were a student of politics, and if you are aware of what's going on in the world and around you, and it wasn't surprising what I learned, but what I did learn was like the characters. These are actual people, but how they move, how they think, how they see the world, and why they move the way they do. And then it makes you say, hey, more people, we need to, I don't know, kind of rethink some of the things we do, and kind of like need to start moving like the way they do. I don't want to give a film away.
Yeah.
Because there are no heroes in the film. I would call them villains. I mean, to answer your question. Right. But the way they maneuvered is quite interesting.
Yeah, there were no. It's a film. Even in the end,
right,
when he's on his deathbed, he's not even on his deathbed because there is a unreliable narrator of the story, and you don't know who he is.
You will learn.
You see him in the film, but you don't know what his name is. You don't know who he is. Right. But he says he's kind of related to Dick Cheney. But you say, so it's getting to the latter part of the film. You're like, and he's talking on the screen, and you're like, who is this guy, right? And then you find out who he is, and even when you think it's over, it's not over, and it's like 10 more years in the game that this person could be this maneuverer. So I have to give him credit. He told his wife that she would never be disappointed in him.
Yeah, he did.
And every step of the way, he made sure that she was not disappointed.
Right.
And she found her voice.
She did.
Coming through a time when women weren't allowed to do certain things.
Right.
She found her voice
right.
through his maneuvering. Then thus she was able to become a powerful person and her voice be recognized and heard. So they worked together as a team.
Yeah.
There was no disagreement. He said, do this, make me proud. And I have to give Dick Cheney all the props. Right or wrong, is evil in the eyes of the beholder. Because though he did things that were evil in most people's eyes, in his wife's eyes,
and in his eyes,
he wasn't.
In his family's eyes.
In Replicas, even though the company was doing something that would be evil in most people's eyes, they made big money at the end. In
crazy, interesting film. It's quite entertaining.
If Beal Street Could Talk, the police officer claimed something, and in the end, it remained the way it was, and the police officer went on. It's evil in the eyes of the beholder. Hey,
the attorney went on.
In Glass, the heroes aren't necessarily the heroes, and the people who are considered the heroes are evil in most people's eyes, but is evil in the eyes of the beholder. Here's an example of a man in Vice. This is an actual, not only a character on stage, which you have to give it to Kristen Bell. He played that part. He said, I'm done with Batman, let me out of this. And he sat down for a second but came back strong, put on the weight, told the story. And here's a character on the screen, but also a man in real life that the character is based on, that pushed through, did what he did. Most people will think he's evil, and then he will tell you that you're welcome for him keeping you safe. And whatever that is necessary to be. So you have to give that person their credit because they win. Because is evil in the eyes of the beholder? I would say yes. What would you say? 213-943-3358. Before we switch gears, we got like 6 minutes left before we get into the Talk New Music segment. So what I would rate the film, it takes you on a whirlwind, people. It takes you from his youth. It takes you from his youth to his grown period, into his middle period, all the way into his being older, and all in between the time he's having these heart problems, and living through them and going through. So you have to give the person credit for what credit is due. That he got to be the most powerful man while working in a position that is supposed to be just more ceremonial.
Yeah.
But he sat down with the man in the beginning and said, we're going to do it like this. And they did it like that. And that's maybe on Bush 2's head. Probably eats on his head all the time, or maybe not. But it is not on Dick Cheney's head, because he did, what did he do? He said his wife would never be disappointed in him. And that's the whole story. It's everything that happened around. It's a love story between a husband and wife. That's what Vice is about. Most great films are about a love story between a man and a woman, and everything else around it has to do with making sure that their situation is taken care of and that each other feels satisfied with the other. And that's what Vice is about. Yeah. So go see the film. I'm going to give it a 10.
Yeah, I would
10 acting, going through the different time periods, the use of actual photography that actually came from that, the wardrobe, the style of it, the lighting, everything. I'll give it a 10. Go see Vice. And plus it's historical, and you get a little Shakespeare, and it
just
is
a little bit,
and it is not
just
a comedy.
scene, a quick scene.
It's not comedy. It is real serious business. They may categorize it as comedy so that you will go see it. It's funny in points, but let me tell you something. It is not a comedy, but it is very entertaining.
Like what you say about President Trump. They laugh at him, but this man,
but he gets it through.
It's crazy.
It's edutainment. It's very entertaining and educational at the same time. Right. Shows you how Washington works. So that's a 10. All right, people.
Crazy.
So now we're headed on to new music talk.
Check out. Yeah.
That's right. So let's go through the list here. Oh yeah. Again, this is brought to you by the Black Ice Chronicles. Right. Back in Cleveland DVD. Available on LordlandFilms.com. A hard copy, we'll get it out to you. Also streaming on LordlandFilms.com. Yeah, go ahead. So let's talk about. So what did we hear?
One of the new singles of many that like really stood out was Chris Brown's new single "Undecided," which is a really nice single. Yeah, and it has that feel. I'm sure you're familiar with Shanice Wilson's song "I Love Your Smile."
I just give you those many bars.
Yeah. So Chris's song, it's a really nice song. "Undecided," really nice.
Yeah, it's a great song.
You know, when they had that debate, and was it Jeremiah? He said he's the king of R&B, and people were throwing out names and stuff.
Now that they're trying to decapitate the king,
and he's no longer on Sony, right? Didn't Sony drop R. Kelly?
Since they're trying to decapitate the king.
Since they're hey, I say
the Lord is now the Lord in His kingdom is now going to move over.
Great music.
His king of popular music is going to move over to the king because he's been putting out constant hits
after hit
after hit
after hit
after hit
after hit.
Yeah, so he's good.
And then Kelly Rowland has a new single also, and it's entitled Kelly, and it's a really good single.
Yeah,
inspiring.
Kelly Rowland actually shows a little egotism.
Yes, she does.
She's got booty.
Yeah. And
Destiny's Child, she's got booty. Right. So, so it's a great single to listen to. And go ahead.
It has that feel, like her attitude, like she has a child now, she's married, she's more confident. You can tell, like from the lyrics in the song, it kind of reminded me of Beyonce's like confidence in that song Bow Down. And in Kelly's song, the lyrics, listen to the lyrics, it's a good song. And it's fast and it's a good song. Sam Smith is back. He has a new single with Normani, and excellent song. This song is a ballad, and it's called Dancing with a Stranger.
I don't too much care for Sam Smith. Move on.
But I mentioned it because Normani is on it. And she killed it. So I'm like, he made a really good decision selecting Normani to do the single with.
To keep his foothold in the black community. That's cool.
Yeah, because Normani is good. And then 7th Streeter song, Yearning, is really nice.
Oh yeah,
he has that.
nice.
Is that the Gap Band?
Yeah.
That song Yearning, really nice. Her, we talked about her before.
It's not necessarily a new single, but it's the next release off of her album. Yeah, it's the next release off.
Yeah, because her album is a good album.
Well, when I heard her playing it, because I was doing some editing, and I said, "Is that her?" Because you know
her voice.
You know her voice.
Yeah,
her voice is so distinctive.
Yeah,
it is just something in her, the way that she arranges her music. And her whole imaging and what she talks about is just original, and it's just going to town. And you should definitely pick up her, because her is her for sure.
She has a song with Bryson Tiller, Could Have Been, really nice. I believe the song was in the Tiffany Haddish film. Drizzy, female rapper. She's a good rapper. Check her out. She has a song with 2 Chainz called Second to None.
Now, at first, I have to say this because, I listen for the sonics and I listen to the vocal. She does say this, so it's not, but I really need her to come into her own, just my opinion. She sounds like Nicki.
And see, that's what you say, but I don't think so.
She sounds like a young Nicki, like, it's just the way that she delivers. It's the voice timbre. It's like the same, and I need her to break out of it, because you know how people come in and they move pace and people listen to them, and then they come out kind of sound like to them because they might pick up their cadence or something, and because they feel inspired by them. That's what I hear here. Like, she puts her words together well. She's
a writer, so she does write her own stuff, which is a plus.
That's what I'm saying. She puts her words together well, but she has to move out and find her own delivery and her own voice timbre, and from there it can go.
You check her out and you decide, because
you decide.
I can tell the difference.
Because you hear the name, but if you're just sitting there and you're listening, the first thing, like a lot of these female rappers today, the first thing I say, if I'm sitting here editing and I'm listening, I say, well, is that new Nicki? Because that's who they sound like. You know
Except
what?
For Cardi B, she doesn't sound like Nicki.
You know what? you know what? Lil' Kim sounds like. You know what? Foxy Brown sounds like, right? You know what Missy Elliott sounds like. You know what Kaya sounds like. You know what Trina sounds like, right? So when you hear people, so Nicki has held it for so long that the people are influenced, right? Yeah. And so they have to move out of the influence and get their own, change their cadence, change their bar steps, how they flow in between the bars. They have to change to be and come into their own. And I believe that what she talks about is different subject matter.
Yeah, it is.
But she has to change how she flows in between the bar counts, and then she'll come into her own. That's all I'm saying.
Her tribute to Aretha Franklin is a nice song. That R.I.P. Aretha by Drizzy.
That's pretty good.
Monica. She has a new single, Monica, Commitment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You heard that. You said her voice sounds a lot stronger.
Yeah,
and that's saying a lot, because her voice was always like strong. So it's even better. Mm-hmm. So Monica's new single is nice. And then Tinashe.
I like how she represents herself on the reality show.
Oh yeah.
She represents herself grown and sexy.
Yeah, she does.
No, grown and sensual. There's a difference between sexy and sensual. Right. Sensual is you're not trying.
Right.
She's just who she is, and so she puts herself across, and is very confident. Go ahead.
Right. Tinashe has a new single called Throw a Fit. Mm-hmm. Really good song. Tinashe is going to be on that. What is that? Rent. They're gonna do Rent on Fox.
Yeah.
Along with Mario.
Yeah.
And we like this song called Mile High. Metro Boomin, James Blake, and Travis Scott. So that's a really good song. City Girls, Twerk. That's a good song.
Oh, that's that controversy, right?
Yeah. City Girls did the song along with Cardi B, and it's a really good song. And then they did a video, and then Cardi B allegedly she wanted them to recut the video because Young Miami was outshining her in the video.
What was
according to Young Miami.
How was she outshining her, I wonder?
I don't know. Maybe her lyrics are rapping or her dancing. Well, they said according to Young Miami, it had. Yeah, she said her.
She was out doing twerking.
Yeah, but I mean, because Young Miami can. I mean,
isn't twerking like a certain age group that would be able to twerk, and then the
Young Miami is young
and mature you get, then. Not necessarily your twerking would be the same as it once was. I mean, let's just be
I actually
honest.
think this song should have been just the City Girl song. Like, I don't think that they needed Cardi B on the song because it's a strong song, and
they're delivering, and they're the next generation. She was like a middle point, in between Nick and the next. But now it's back to people. Now they sound.
Good.
They have their own
City Girl sound good, right?
You know what I'm saying? They have their own sound. I don't mix them up with Nicki. I don't mix them up with Trina.
Right.
You know what I mean? They have their own sound.
Right.
Okay, so who else?
And lastly, speaking of Keanureeves, since we discussed his movie Replica, rapper Logic has a song called Keanureeves, and that was a good song.
Yeah, Logic is flowing on that.
Yeah, he is.
You know, there's a lot of people who are talking about how rap is negative and it's Illuminati and all that. But I bet you if they were still running it, they wouldn't have anything to say about hip hop.
Right.
They wouldn't have anything to say about it. And I'm going to tell you this, and it's true, because I experienced something, and you know, I've always said this, and it's true. And this is true. Atlanta is going to hold on to hip hop until it's going to hold on to it to the end of our lifetimes. Wanna know why? Because they remember all those. They sound country. They don't do hip hop. Because you know, hip hop is what makes it fresh. It's variety. It's new. It's different areas. People say it different. Atlanta will hold on to it, and the so-called mumble rap will mumble into infinity, and the people who originally did it will never get it again. It will never be on top. They will have to go get beats from other places or sound like other places, but it will not be like that because they were not open. And so I experienced that. I experienced something like that over the weekend. I was like, and that's why they never hold it again.
Right.
So, you know, in that aspect, you know, that's true. That's why Atlanta's always going to hold it, because they never forgot. And if not, somebody else in the South is going to hold it. And they never forget those country, all those different slides of what those sound right. You know, so now, lastly, so we went through the new music and we have a few minutes left. So we're going to talk about now the new Don Cheadle show, which is on Showtime.
Yeah, Black Monday.
Black Monday.
Also starring Regina Hall.
Now, if you hadn't seen Don Cheadle's previous show that was on Showtime, what was that called?
Is it House of Lies?
House of Lies, that's right. If you haven't seen that, that lasted quite a few seasons.
Yeah.
And so now this time, he's coming around with this one that talks about the crash that happened in '87, and it's 300. At this point, when you first open up the story, it's 365 days before the crash that happened in 1987, which they call Black Friday. Now, any other time when they're in the red, how come they didn't call it Red Friday? Because when they're in the red and it sinks, when the stock market sinks, they're usually in the red. Then when they're good, they usually come in the black. It has to do with black oil or black bodies being sold on the floor of the stock exchange back so many years ago, but they were in the black. But then somehow Black Friday, instead of being Red Friday, it was called Black Friday. So the story opens up and you're introduced to, it opens up and it's a sequence. It's a surreal sequence. There's a white man crying in the street. You see all of these paper bills, not money, but paper bills, like trading bills, cascaded along the Wall Street street. And you see this Lamborghini fly past the man crying in the street, and then it stops, and the person gets out, and you find out that it's a limousine Lamborghini, and then something falls into the roof of the Lamborghini, and that is the initiating event, people. Yeah. And that is then they take you back 365 days before. Right. And then you're introduced to Don Cheadle, right, who is a master trader, yeah, a master cocaine sniffing, living life to the highest, right, Jerry curl, afro, right, black man, in the middle of Wall Street in 87, the most feared and most revered black man on Wall Street. And this is what this story is about, and it surrounds around. So we're introduced to Regina King, who is considered his equal, and they came up together through high school, it appears. Yeah. And she is his equal. He treats her as his equal. Yeah. And then you're introduced to all the wide array of characters that make up his the main characters that make, because there's back people in the back, right, but the main people that are around him, right, you see Arab represented, white represented, right, Mexican represented, black woman represented, right, him as a black man represented, and then there's a new geeky person that is introduced in. Now, what's so beautiful about this piece is that it is very cerebral. Yeah. What you think is happening is not happening, and then at the end of the first episode, they're 27-minute episodes, mm-hmm, and what happens at the end of the episode, mm-hmm, it shows you how well thought out the piece is. It's not on the nose where, golly gee, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then this is gonna be happening. There are twists and turns. Yeah. We're gonna enjoy watching this. Yeah. It comes on tonight at what is it, 9, 8? I don't know. Check your local listings, but it's on tonight. We saw it early. It's on tonight on Showtime. It's called Black Friday. Monday. It's it's Monday. That's right. It is Monday. Yeah. That's right. I'm getting my days mixed up because we've been doing so many different casts that my days and seeing so many different films. Yeah. So Black Friday. So Monday it comes on. So definitely watch it. You will enjoy it. Yep. It's a romp. It takes you through the times. Don Cheadle is excellent actor, and if it's one film that you have to see Don Cheadle in, and why they did not make more of this film, I will never know. But Devil in a Blue Dress, with him teamed up with Denzel Washington, right, in the lead role, and him as the supporting actor, they should have won Oscars and supporting. We've been Oscars waiting for the sequel to that for years. For years, but they should definitely act again as something else. But Devil in a Blue Dress, if you have never seen that film, it's Jessica Biel too, right? Yep, Jessica Biel. That's right. Jessica
Loretta Devine is also
that's
in
right. And so it is a great film.
Directed by Carl Franklin. That's
right. And you have to see that film. So Don Cheadle's been doing it for years, getting it done. Incredible stuff.
Book written by Walter Mosley.
That's right. It's a whole Rawlings series. A whole Rawlings series.
Collection
where that's the books. Lead detective. Yeah. And it's a whole series of books, and they were thinking that this was going to
kick it off.
Because
Don Cheadle played Mouse.
That's right. He played Mouse. Sure did. Yeah. And what if you? For people who like gangster movies, you're gonna love this movie. It's a detective movie, but believe me, Miles, Don
Yeah.
Cheadle as Miles brings the gangster.
Right.
For sure. So see this film. Let's see what else we want to say. Okay. So like I said, next Thursday, 11 a.m. we have Crazy. I think we come on twice. We come on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I believe the next one is going to be Thursday because I'm setting up for the Tuesday show with different topics. But Crazy Talk, Crazy Topics. Did the civil rights generation hold on it too long and didn't pass on the reins to Generation X? That's next Thursday. What else? Then we have Crazy D Talks film production. That comes up on this Monday. The first 2 episodes are up. We talk about the rule of thirds and we talk about jumping the line, crossing the line. That's up. Then this next episode is talking about coverage. In film, you have to have plenty of coverage, and in the film production, Crazy D Talks film production, we also talk. I apply it to real life. So tune in on Monday. That's 11 a.m. on Monday. As I say, my film, nut in my what? Okay, listen to that. Ain't that something? Okay, so what does that mean? Nut in my film. Okay, right here. I don't know if somebody wrote that, but anyway, right here, Black Ice Chronicles. Pick this up. The film is called Back in Cleveland. It's a live stream. You can get it, stream it, or you can get the hard copy. We'll get it right out to you, and then the film review, T-shirts available. Let's see, what else do we need to talk about? I just want to make sure that we have everything in because this has been robust. We ran through everything.
So let's check out
within 2 hours.
Yeah, check out definitely. Yeah, Glass. The Beal Street Could Talk.
That's right.
And Vice.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely check out those.
And then if you want to go see Replicas, if you're, go ahead.
And then Don Cheadle, if you want to see Don Cheadle, definitely watch him. Watch him. Oh my God, these people are writing some craziness. We wanted to just go here and say remove.
Yeah, so definitely go check out those films.
Remove.
For yourself, just our opinions. But Keanureeves is generally a pretty good actor, so I'm gonna see his next film and give him another chance, I guess.
Yeah, because we're waiting on Constantine 2, and we're waiting on some others, and so that's about it, people. We have run through this 2 hours. Again, we are simulcasting live over Blog Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, and we asked the question: is evil in the eyes of the beholder? And I would have to answer after watching these films and seeing how it all plays out. The answer is yes. The evil is in the eyes of the beholder. One person looking at a person doing something will say, "Oh, that's good," especially if it's good for them.
Right. So.
If it's a person who is not good about, then not good for, then they'll say that person is evil, and that's what we discussed. So, is there evil and good and evil? It's all in the eyes of the beholder, and so that's what we'll close out. Anything else you want to say there?
Well, no, it was great movies.
Great movies.
I look forward to seeing.
Except for that
more.
replica. I'm just replicas. Oh my.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing Barry Jenkins' next film. I'm looking forward to. We need a Suicide Squad Part 2.
Yes, we do. One of the great.
Will Smith. I was waiting for Hancock too. I mean, I still don't understand that because Hancock, the first one, well, the only one, did well in the box office. They made a lot of money. Great film. There was no Part 2. I don't understand. But Bad Boys 2 is coming, right?
Bad Boys 3.
Oh,
right?
3.
It's 3. It's the third in the installment.
Yeah, 3.
And then what's going on with what's going on?
Oh, Coming to America Part 2.
That's right. What's going on with Men in Black not being Men in Black this time? What's going on with that?
You know Will Smith, I'm sure he moved on.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, what's going on with that?
What would have been fly if Jaden Smith was in it?
That's right.
That,
Because that movie with Will Smith and Jaden Smith
was a
great
good movie, and that was a M. Night Shyamalan film, just like
right.
and
Glass.
They
just bombed it because they bombed them, but really they were really bombing M. Night Shyamalan because he came up with it. Right. Will Smith and his son just acted in it.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll see a third film with Will Smith and his son together because the first one was Pursuit of Happiness.
I remember that's when we first came out here to Vegas, and I remember we were talking to one of the actors that flaked on us. He was European American people. I was using him as, I write the heavy European. The actors that's heavy, they're usually against trying to do something to the black protagonists in my films. But anyway, we were sitting there and we were talking to him, and he just had venom for, Will Smith said, why would they have his son in it? Because they thought
he was just being a hater.
Because he thought that it was a Will Smith film.
Right, and we let him know he was a hater.
But he thought it was a Will Smith film, but really it was an M. Night Shyamalan film.
It was a good film.
And when you down somebody,
right.
when you down someone, they seem to remember it.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it goes into the cosmos. And it eats you anyway. So, he didn't know it. Success. I've seen him in many successful things. So that's the way it is. But I remember that clearly as day that it was like, why is he putting it in there? What's wrong with nepotism when you bring
works for everybody else?
It works for everybody else.
Right.
So anyway, people.
I mean, because like for instance, the nepotism. What's his name? Kirk Douglas.
Yeah.
And Michael Douglas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then and what's the other guy? The movie that you like, the and his whole family. They're all
you talking about the big
right, that
yeah, right.
And all of them.
All of them, they're one big family of actors.
Yeah, I can't think of their name. And then
That's
the Fondas.
The Bridges.
Yeah, the Bridges, Ty Bridges.
Yeah,
not
his
Ty
father.
Bridges.
Well, not Ty Bridges. Wish he was part of that family, right? But anyway, people, we're gonna get out of here. But remember.
Oh, but first of all, Tessa Thompson is going to be in the new Men in Black. So I'm sure it's going to be a good film. But I would like to have also seen like Jaden in it too.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be in part 4. That would be good.
Just move forward with the same.
Because didn't they do Men in Black part another one?
That they had 3.
Okay, so.
But this is a new offshoot, a prequel maybe.
Okay.
Or whatever. But anyway, we're out of here and we're gonna close with this right here. See you next time on the film review. We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy Dee
Tracey.
And we review culture and movies, music, politics, and whatever else comes to mind.
The film review, movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to mind. Brought to you by LordlandFilms.com. The hosts, Crazy Dee and Tracy Dion. All music heard on the film review available on iTunes, Apple Music. Live stream recording and audio, Crazon Dion. Research on topics, Tracy Dion. The film review, movies, music, culture, and whatever else comes to mind. All rights reserved. LordlandFilms.com. Copyright 2019.